Have you ever felt a deep discomfort when someone suddenly knocks on your door, or when a friend suggests coming over without prior notice? You might not dislike people, nor feel hostility toward anyone, yet the mere thought of someone invading your personal space makes you tense, as if something inside you resists this external presence. This is not simply a matter of mood or preference for solitude, but as Carl Jung pointed out, such a situation reveals much about the depths of your soul. Jung explains that the external home mirrors the internal one. The walls of a house are not merely concrete and bricks. They symbolize protection of the self from the outside world. Constantly refusing visitors does not necessarily indicate antisocial tendencies, but may reflect a soul preoccupied with an internal struggle, still seeking a balance between the ego that interacts with the world and the self that resides within. For Jung, the visitor is not merely a person at the door. They are symbolic. They represent the other, who reminds you that you are not alone. If their presence disturbs you, it may reflect a refusal to confront parts of yourself you have not reconciled with. In essence, you are not rejecting the visitor, but the mirror their presence reflects. Many individuals who gravitate toward extreme solitude carry unprocessed symbolic content. They inhabit a vast inner world filled with images, dreams, and reflections. For them, any external visit disrupts this carefully built, fragile system. Hosting someone is not a simple social encounter, but a small earthquake that shakes their psychological stability. Yet refusing visitors is not always negative. At times, it can signal a soul undergoing reconstruction. Just as a wound withdraws to heal away from noise, solitude here can be therapeutic rather than pathological. However, if it becomes habitual, it may reveal a deep fear of exposure or an unhealed old wound. Your soul, when it refuses others, communicates an important message. I am not ready to open the doors yet. The question is, how long will the doors remain closed? How long will you remain confined within yourself, denying the world a share in your existence? Healing begins by confronting the inner world before the outer. When you reconcile with your shadows, accepting those dark parts you have long denied, the door will no longer feel heavy. The presence of others becomes easier, because you no longer fear that they will see what you have tried to hide. Solitude is not a flaw. It is a gift when used wisely, but it becomes a prison if it serves as an escape from confrontation. Therefore, when you say, I don't like having visitors, ask yourself, am I saying this to honor my inner space, or to avoid facing myself in the eyes of others? Ever felt that hosting visitors burdens you, and that the mere idea of opening your door for someone stirs a strange tension inside? Some might interpret this as social rejection or coldness, but Carl Jung delves much deeper. He views this tendency toward withdrawal not as a passing behavior, but as a sign of a soul seeking an untouchable personal space. Those who refuse visitors often feel that their personal energy is precious, and that every external encounter consumes it, sometimes without any tangible return. This visible discomfort in hosting others is not aggression. It is a protective measure of the soul, aiming to maintain internal equilibrium. Jung links this withdrawal to the individual's psychological depth. A person who refuses visitors is often on a continuous journey to understand themselves, explore their inner world, and confront thoughts and emotions without external interference. In a noisy world of constant social demands and stimuli, isolation offers a chance to recharge and identify true desires, apart from outside influence. There is a crucial difference between negative withdrawal, born of fear or social anxiety, and conscious immersion in one's private space, which grants a sense of power and self-control. Those who refuse visitors in this conscious manner possess advanced awareness of their emotional and spiritual needs, recognizing that every interaction should be deliberate and that presence with others should not compromise inner peace. In this isolation lie tremendous opportunities for spiritual growth. By temporarily stepping back from visitors, individuals may uncover layers of themselves previously unknown, raw emotions, unfinished thoughts, suppressed desires, even creativity that requires complete silence to emerge. Refusing others does not equate to rejecting life or humanity. It is a mastery of protecting the inner world, and a form of respect for a soul whose balance cannot be disturbed by external pressures. Through this simple act, a person becomes a conscious observer of their life, choosing when and how to interact with the world and understanding that each encounter carries potential for either depletion or renewal of inner energy. Ultimately, what may appear to others as coldness or aloofness is, in fact, the language of the soul, a silent message saying, "Respect my space. Let me restore my balance. Let me hear my own echo." This deep soul, comfortable in solitude, understands that the external world is full of demands and that internal silence is not escape but strength. Those who consciously refuse visitors understand that psychological energy cannot be wasted, and that self-respect begins with knowing and protecting one's limits, even if such behavior seems unusual to others. Buying from others and refusing visitors often reflects a deeper internal conflict, a tension between the desire for social connection and the need to preserve oneself. Carl Jung emphasizes that this tension is no accident. It is part of developing self-awareness. The individual who chooses isolation confronts a fundamental question. How do I balance my need for others with my desire to protect my inner energy? Every unplanned interaction can feel like a wave destabilizing the soul, and each word or external action may absorb a portion of one's inner energy. Withdrawal, in this sense, is not merely a choice but a strategy to maintain psychological stability, a shield against unwanted interference that may hinder internal growth. This withdrawal allows the individual to face themselves more honestly, free from social noise and external expectations. In this silent space, the soul communicates with its true self, exploring suppressed emotions, re-evaluating relationships, and examining motives and goals. Those who consciously refuse visitors often discover that isolation grants clarity, a wider perspective, and the ability to make balanced, wise decisions. Here lies Jung's central insight. Personal space is not a luxury, but a necessity for psychological and spiritual development, and every social interaction should be deliberate to avoid depleting the soul's energy needlessly. Isolation also allows the individual to reorganize their emotional life. By sometimes refusing visitors, they can determine who deserves access to their inner world and who should remain in a superficial or limited connection. This does not indicate total disconnection from the world. Rather, it reflects an individual consciously aware of their boundaries, understanding that relationships demand energy and time, which are finite. Within this realization lies true strength, the ability to choose relationships that nourish and protect one's psychological balance, and to reject those that drain energy or disrupt inner peace. On a spiritual level, isolation carries a deeper message. By refusing visitors, a person creates space for inner growth and self-reflection. In this silence, the soul can confront fears, reconcile with wounds, and discover hidden strengths that remain unseen amid daily life's noise. Thus, refusing others becomes not just a social act, but a conscious exercise of personal freedom and a means to understand oneself more deeply and honestly. Refusing visitors does not only protect energy or maintain personal space, it also reflects an individual's sensitivity to external influences. Jung noted that some people possess what can be called deep emotional awareness, the ability to perceive and absorb the emotions of others unconsciously. For these individuals, each social interaction carries the potential to drain emotional energy, leaving them burdened by external pressures or negative feelings. Isolation becomes a means of psychological filtering, allowing the individual to discharge external influences and recharge internally without distraction or stress. This isolation, rooted in emotional sensitivity, does not imply complete withdrawal from the world. It indicates careful selection of moments to open the door. Here, inner wisdom emerges, as the individual recognizes that every invitation or visit has a potential psychological cost. Isolation becomes training in self-awareness, knowing when to open, when to close, and when to allow others into one's spiritual space. This discernment fosters psychological strength by maintaining balance between social interaction and self-preservation. Spiritually, isolation is also deeply connected to internal cohesion and personal growth. Jung observed that temporary silence and withdrawal can serve as a gateway to understanding the shadow self, the aspects of personality typically avoided or ignored. Choosing to step back from visitors provides the opportunity to explore these shadows, examine motives, confront fears, and uncover latent powers. In this inner silence, the soul gains new insights, latent abilities surface, and a deeper awareness enables the individual to live life more authentically and balanced. Finally, conscious isolation reflects an understanding of the value of one's time and life. Each deliberately chosen social interaction becomes more meaningful and aligned with the soul's needs. Refusing visitors is not a rejection of the world or others, but a tool for self-refinement, preserving personal experience, and ensuring that every relationship or interaction adds real value rather than becoming a burden. In this context, isolation is a conscious practice of psychological growth, meditation, and spiritual elevation, allowing the individual to master their energy and protect themselves fully. Refusing visitors does not always mean a complete social withdrawal. It is a method for preserving the person's inner sanctities, a quiet space where the inner voice can be heard clearly. Jung observed that many live chasing external expectations, losing touch with their inner self and often forgetting their true desires. Isolation creates a barrier protecting from external noise, providing the opportunity to test feelings, thoughts, and decisions, an essential aspect of developing an integrated personality. In solitude, self-awareness expands, priorities become evident, and the individual can distinguish between necessity and social clutter. Behavior reflects an acute awareness of psychological energy limitations. Each social encounter consumes part of this energy, and not every conversation contributes to personal or spiritual growth. Choosing isolation is therefore a practice of maintaining balance and exercising freedom, allowing control over who enters one's life. Jung noted that those who protect their personal boundaries live with clarity and confront the world with strength and self-confidence, free from the expectations of others. Moreover, isolation becomes a space for creativity and deep reflection. History's great thinkers and artists relied on solitude to discover new insights, formulate ideas, and understand the world. Stepping back from visitors allows the mind to experiment and reflect freely, transforming isolation into a spiritual and psychological practice that elevates the individual, cultivating independence, wisdom, and psychological awareness. Isolation from visitors is not merely a fleeting desire for solitude. It reflects a profound inner life and the presence of a sacred space carefully guarded. Jung emphasized that many people live superficially, connected only to the external world, neglecting the depths of the soul. By isolating themselves, individuals create a psychological and spiritual wall, protecting them from energy depletion, allowing confrontation with the true self, understanding desires, fears, and real psychological needs, free from external noise. This isolation demonstrates rare self-protection awareness. It is not a rejection of relationships or society, but a deliberate choice for encounters that genuinely enrich life. Jung observed that many avoid facing themselves, remaining occupied with others to escape inner silence. In contrast, the person choosing isolation confronts silence courageously, investing it in self-growth, deep reflection, and character refinement. Awareness emerges, and distinctions between what is essential and trivial become clear. Isolation also nurtures creativity and psychological renewal. It allows free movement of thoughts and emotions without external pressure. Many influential figures relied on solitude to organize ideas, gain new perspectives, and refine worldviews. Isolation thus becomes a spiritual and psychological practice, raising consciousness and granting internal strength to face life with honesty and clarity, free from pretense or the need to please others. Ultimately, refusing visitors is not merely social behavior, It signals a unique inner spiritual journey in which the individual acknowledges responsibility for self-protection first. Jung emphasized that each moment of conscious isolation is an opportunity to re-evaluate values, understand true motives, and determine if life follows authentic choices or others' expectations. Those who choose isolation understand psychological energy is finite. An indiscriminate distribution may deplete strength necessary for internal and external challenges. This isolation resembles building an inner fortress, not only against people but also against distracting thoughts, social pressures, and superficial impressions. It offers rare opportunities for deep reflection, exploration of neglected shadows, and recognition of hidden inner strengths. Jung described this isolation as a return to the self, discovering the soul's depths and learning that true happiness and psychological growth emerge from within. From facing oneself honestly and embracing all parts of the self, including the dark aspects, conscious isolation enables wise social engagement, allowing selective interactions with those who add value, while avoiding those who drain energy or distract from spiritual and psychological paths. A balance emerges between openness and closure, giving and protection, social interaction and inner growth. Understanding the deep meaning of isolation frees one from guilt or societal pressure, allowing life to be lived authentically, where spirit harmonizes with mind and heart aligns with self, guided by Jung's wisdom calling us back to our true essence.